And just want to say welcome everybody to our I've Decided to Be Productive Success Group that's led by the awesome Karen Shorey. We are so blessed to have her as a resource for I've Decided. And obviously, you guys have been, some of you have already attended her success groups. This is maybe the third or fourth one. I think it might be the third one.
Yeah.
And they've been really great. And obviously you guys enjoy them because you're coming back. And we're super happy to see everyone. And we're really excited to have all of you, but especially having some of our sponsor members, Matt George from the Children's Home. We're happy to have you, the CEO of the Children's Home. I don't know if you guys know him or not, but
awesome, man.
We're very happy to have you here with us. And hey, Mo, I see Mo joined, and Laurie Trotter's here too. So that's perfect. We're about to get started. And what we'll do, hopefully all of you guys know how to chat. If you have some questions or comments or want to make any chats while Karen is doing her presentation, go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, jot them in the chat and I'll keep track of that. And if there's something that comes up where you really feel like you want to intervene and communicate right then, just raise your hand. And you got to raise your hand. You don't literally raise your hand. There's an actual raise your hand, but I guess you can literally raise your hand.
Yes. So yeah, I was gonna say, for those that are on the phone, not sharing your video, if you click on participants, that's where you can see where you can raise your hand. You can tell me slow down, go faster. I think you can even put little emojis or something up there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so it looks like everyone is muted as of right now. I'm going to mute everyone. I'm going to keep you all muted while Karen is talking. Obviously, if she asks a question, I'll unmute all. If you have a noisy background for whatever reason, whether it's kids, dogs, if my dog starts barking, I'll try to make sure. If you have a noisy background, make sure you keep yourself muted and just unmute yourself when you want to ask a question or participate if Karen's asking us questions. But you can certainly unmute yourself if you'd like at any time to share. Just try to keep it, pertaining to the subject matter. And then I'm sure there will be questions at the end, but we're super excited. So yeah, Karen, you can
Excellent.
Roll on.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, which heaven only knows what is up. Okay, that's not bad. No, kidding. Play from the start. So I have a few slides just to kind of keep myself on track. But this particular session is I've decided to be productive. And today we're going to be looking at managing our priorities. So Kim already went over the logistics. But I do want us to have fun, so please go ahead and put stuff up in the chat box. I'm not that good at multitasking and paying attention to all that, so Kim, you just stop me if you see something. And you did say if someone needs to intervene. If someone needs to intervene, we're really in trouble, but by all means, feel free to. But we're going to have fun tonight and talk about productivity through managing our priorities. I think now more than ever, we need to know how to manage priorities. I heard someone share, maybe it was a meme I think I saw on Facebook, which I've been limiting my amount of time on social media very intentionally for my own, I think, mental health. There's just so much negative. And so, but I saw a meme and it really, really was profound and it really resonated with me. Someone had said, well, we're all in the same boat, so stop complaining. And the other person responded, it was like a conversation meme with the little stick figures. We're not in the same boat. We're all in the same storm. And that's so true, because there are some companies that your productivity just went through the roof. You guys are doing more than you've ever done before. There are some that have had to completely close down. I have a daughter who's had to shut her business completely down, complete loss of income. That's huge. Then there are people like myself where I'm still able to manage to continue work, although obvious sales are, anybody that's working in sales, really tough to do sales at a time like this, especially if you have any kind of empathy for others. It's like, do I really want to ask anybody to buy something right now? So we're not all in the same boat, but we are definitely all in the same storm. And so I love that we can like learn together here. And if I could give you guys a few tips that would help you be more productive in what you do, whether you're managing work from home, you're working in your sweats, no judgment. Whatever work looks like for you or life looks like for you now, we want to help you manage those priorities. So basically, there's 4 areas that we're going to cover today. Number 1, setting priorities for each day. Number 2, maintaining focus by limiting our interruptions. That should be a fun conversation with lots in the chat box. We're going to talk about crisis management. What I was going to share today, I had picked out when Kim asked me to do this. So this was preset before COVID-19, which profound, I think. And then how we can protect our productivity by saying no. For some of you, that's a very difficult word to say. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I have to move my window so I can see what I have here. But the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, which is probably where we all try and fail. We try to prioritize what's already on our schedule. The key is to schedule your priorities. If that's where we start, then it's so much easier to say yes to the right things and say no to the other things. So I'm just going to flip to the next slide. So you guys, I think if anybody has heard me probably once, you've seen this, something similar. There's one I use called the time matrix. This is the Eisenhower decision matrix. But when we talk about our priorities and setting our priorities each day, it's super important that we understand, well, I use the word important. What's the difference between important and urgent? Sometimes they get muddy and sometimes we get confused. And so we do whatever is screaming loudest. We struggle with that. We struggle finding that balance. So this is a great, you can screenshot this, I think, or, if you're quick at drawing, you can probably draw 4 little boxes, but basically identify what is urgent. So you see on the left-hand side, both of those, green and red, are urgent, blue and gray are not. And then the top column is important and the bottom column is not. So when you are looking at what you have to do in the course of a day, make that mental, even if you have to put this on a sticky note and put it on your monitor or put it next to if you have a planner. If you're with the I've Decided community, of course you have your I've Decided planner. I always have mine next to me. And oh, by the way, Matt, just going to show you, this is literally on the top of my pile. So just had to show you that. Read in the book. But that is such an important thing for us to, while you're figuring out how do I manage my priorities, use this little code to help you. Do I need to do it? Then just do it now. If it can wait, should I delegate it or should I plan and schedule, decide when I'm going to do it? Or maybe we need to actually just get rid of it. How many of you have ever had, you could do a physical raise of hands or pop your little hand up in the chat box there. How many of you have ever had something on your list to do day after day, like weeks in a row? Anybody? I can't see any. I see a physical hand. Okay, see, Lori, you're in the game with me. Let's see, can I put up in the chat box here? I'll open up my chat box. So how many of you have ever forwarded something on your planning list more than 3 days in a row? Just say yes. Nobody's listening. Jeannie's listening. Right? So we have that. So when you have those kind of things, this is a perfect guide right here to help you figure out what to do with it. So when you plan your day, which is something I really encourage everybody to do, and that was the first thing in our slide, is scheduling our priorities, is number 1, identify what is urgent, what is not, what's important, what is not. is the most important thing for you to end the day knowing you've accomplished. If you know what those things are, then you can do those. If you have no idea, you're going to, you're just going to do whatever comes your way. Now, a good day off, there's nothing wrong with doing nothing if that was your intention. But if you literally wake up in the morning, you start your day and you really don't know what is that one thing you should be focusing on doing, you're going to struggle with that, feeling non-productive. So hopefully this is a tool that will help you. You're going to see it again in a couple of moments. I put it in there twice because I thought it was important. So any questions on scheduling our priorities? I'm going to open up the chat box so I can see it again. It takes time to find, yes, it does, Peggy. It takes time to find the right spot to click to you to respond. So I will slow down. How's that? But how many of you schedule your priorities every day? You could just type in me or yes in the chat box, or we can open it up and you can all talk. Matt, good. I'm glad to see you're doing that, Matt. We would have a conversation afterwards. Mo, I try very hard. You work in nursing, Mo, I think. Are you the one that works in nursing? Or is that Peggy? Oh, teaching. Okay. So you, are you still teaching now, Mo? Usually, but with the change every day, it's been hard. I'm in nursing. Yes. Okay. Peggy, that would make sense.
Oops.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So for you, you are still teaching. And so I can imagine the days that you know exactly what your objective is for the day and you get through it, how you end that day feels so much more productive than the days that you're like.
Yes. I try to write down every day. I've got an hourly.
Excellent. Keeps you on task.
Yes.
Good. Very good. Yeah. So any questions about scheduling our priorities? Another thing before I go into gaining focus by or managing our interruptions is, so I have a planner here. I'm going to flip open to April. And so there's my month at a glance. I know you can't read it, but it's relatively busy, which I was surprised for April with being quarantined. I actually schedule not only my business stuff in my calendar, but I put my personal stuff in my calendar. I have a lot of people raise their eyebrows and say, what? But I do that for a very, very important reason. Number one, my family is priority for me. And what I found over the years is that if I didn't schedule when I was taking time with my family, then that project that took extra time would fall into my family time. If somebody needed me on a Friday night, well, hey, we really, really, really need you, Karen. What are we going to do? Fine, I'll give you the extra hour. And then my family is the one that goes without. So planning and scheduling, blocking out family time. I was just working with some clients actually right before this success group started. And one thing I shared with them is when you know what your high payoff activities are, which I know for some of you that have been on a couple of groups with me, you are familiar with that term, but your high payoff activities are those few things that you do that bring you the great results that you have. So maybe they're the things you're actually paid to do. If you, Matt, George, for you being a CEO, developing your staff, making sure you have vision, that's a high payoff activity for you. So scheduling time to do those high payoff activities, because I hear a lot of people say, I don't have time. My day was just so busy. So I challenged this one person, what if you put in, I'm going to spend an hour from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Friday afternoons doing this specific high payoff activity. And then if somebody says, hey, can you do something with me? Sorry, I have an appointment. They don't need to know it's with you. Make an appointment with yourself to do those things that you know you need to do. And that way you will block it off, because you know that if you have an appointment with Kim Martin, you're not going to miss it. You're not going to be late for it. Well, I would hope they would not be late for it. You're going to do everything you can to be there on time and be fully present for her because you respect her. And so how much more should you respect yourself? So I really encourage you that if you're struggling getting those right things done at the right time, to schedule time for yourself to work on those specific things. So how much sense does that make? You can, Mo. I can see like four of you in the chat box at a time. I love the little heart. So, all right, perfect. If you ink it, you think it. Chuck, I love that. Is that like, is that a quote from someone, or is that like a Chuck quote? If you ink it, you think it. Honestly, writing that down.
Yeah, I heard it years ago. I don't know why. I picked it up from somebody, and it's just something I kind of stuck with me.
I love it. Perfect. So yes, what you focus on is, energy goes where focus flows. Focus goes where energy flows. I get that mixed up, but we all know the point for that one. So, all right, well, let's move on to the second point, and that is we're going to maintain focus by limiting interruptions. So I didn't know who would be on our call today. Let's see, how many do we have? There's 10 of us on here today. Chuck, and is it Carla? Do you work from home? Can you put that in the chat? Deborah, you're working from home. Peggy, you're still working. So if you are working in an office, just write in office. If you are working from home, just kind of type home in the chat box. Jeannie said, I schedule every day, but sometimes I have fires that pop up that I have to put out. Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of it, is when you schedule what's important, even though you have fires that pop up, because your focus is there, you're going to come back to those and get those done for the most part. Chuck from home, Carla is working remotely. Okay, home office and home visits. So that's a big change for you, Peggy, the home visits. I would imagine. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. So what I wanted to share with you, a couple things from the perspective of, let's look at it if we're working in an actual office. How do we limit our interruptions? If you are not very assertive in your personality, which you have to keep that in consideration, is how am I wired? If you're not very assertive, telling someone you're busy right now is the hardest thing to do. I closed the door. I'm not sure if that was Chuck or Carla, but yes. So my door is shut. Actually, my door is ajar. There we go. It's locked now. So I actually was in a meeting. I think I had 7 clients that I was doing a Zoom meeting like this with. And my husband, who was off, decided he'd come in with just his shorts on. I'm like, so you might want to back out quickly. So yeah, shutting your door does help when you are in that office situation. A couple of things that I just want to share with you, some practical ways that you can limit interruptions, is communicate with the people that you interact with on a daily basis when you are available. And just let them know, hey, I'm working on this project that really requires my absolute concentration. So if you need me, I'm available from blank to blank. Letting them know ahead of time that, especially if you don't like confrontation, I want to give you some easy outs. These are some great ways that you can just communicate to those people. What it's doing is 2 things. A, you're securing that you're going to have that concentrated time that's not full of distractions, but you're also teaching that person to respect their time as well. So you'll see that it will kind of have that domino effect, which is really cool. So another way that you can manage your interruptions is email management. So how many of you have on your computer notifications of when an email comes in? Just in the chat, just say yes or no. Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and you're having a meeting, and or you're working. You're trying to put together whether it's a presentation you have to give, or a proposal, or something that requires concentration, and you hear this little beep, this little, ding, or whatever sound it is attached to it. What happens immediately? Immediately your thought process is broken, doesn't matter if you don't look at it, it's broken. And so now you have to get back into that groove again. So I apologize, somebody's mowing outside my window, so I don't know if you can hear that or not. Is it loud? Excuse me. And so that's a distraction I can't prevent. Tell him not to. Lori, I was wondering what that was. Yes, my husband decided he's going to mow now. So managing our distractions. So one of my clients, a brilliant thing that he did was, we were talking about email and how email can be very consuming, because it's like you start with one thing and then you go from here and it just takes you further. And so what he did was, he decided that he was only going to check his email 3 times a day. He would check it when he got in it in the morning. He checked it right before he left for lunch, and he checked it again before he left for the end of the day. He communicated this with everybody so that it wasn't a massive change. And he let them know, if it's urgent, please call me, text me, call me. But other than that, I'm only going to be looking at my email 3 times a day. He turned off his notifications, because you must have only 10 emails a day. No, but he would actually set like 20 to 30 minutes just to focus on those emails, Matt. I love it. And if you have more than one email account, good gravy. It's like you could have 100 in each one. So, but that's what he did. So that was one way he managed his email. Drop-ins, communicate with people by simply having a door shut. If that isn't a strong enough hint that you're busy, again, communicating to the people that might be in the office with you. Notifications. So we have like our phone, we have, maybe you have a tablet next to you, you got your actual computer, you got all these dings, dings, dings. Turn off those notifications if you require that really quiet, concentrated time. And just be aware, like, what is the natural rhythm of your office? If everybody is out to lunch between 12 and 1, maybe you should eat at a different time so that you can maximize that quiet time without, yes, Peggy, it's helpful to let your team know when you can't get to things so they have an alternative to contact you and help them problem solve themselves. Excellent point to bring up, Peggy, is that often when you defer someone or you ask them to wait, I can't get to you right now, I'll get you in an hour, they will figure out on their own. More than often, they will figure on their own how to resolve the problem. A lot of times people come to us out of habit. Can you fix this for me? Can you fix? So being able to defer them and ask them to come back at a different time, they'll find a way, which is great, to figure out how to get past their problem. So let's talk about working from home. Working from home is great. It has a lot of perks, but it has a lot of distractions that are really, really unique. So you have the gentleman who decides he's going to mow outside his wife's office during a webinar. Uncontrollable, can't fix that one. You have, the dog that might be sitting outside the door whining. Okay, I can't fix that. Maybe you have a kid that comes in and is constantly, your kid's saying, when's dinner, right? Sorry, this is during dinner time. So I actually, what I did was I told my family, I am in meetings from 3 o'clock till 6:30 tonight. So you're on your own for dinner. Don't worry about me. Please don't wait for me. So more than likely they'll just wait and we'll eat very late tonight. But I let them know ahead of time so that they're not going to be knocking on the door saying, Mom, what's for dinner? When you have small children, one of another gentleman that I was talking with, he has, I think, a 3 or 4-year-old daughter and then a baby. And so they're both working from home. His 3 or 4-year-old isn't understanding that daddy has to work because she just loves that daddy's there all the time. And we all know what a small child, they don't understand time, they don't understand work. And so he created a little thing that he hung on his door that said, like, it was color coded, and if it was green, it meant she could come in and talk to daddy, but if it was red, she had to wait. And then he also made a small little box that he said, I want you to draw for daddy, and you can put all of your artwork in this box, because she was slipping it under the door. And so of course, every time he'd hear that paper, he'd look, and it's distracting him, and it's precious, and it's his daughter, and it's definitely a high value, but he has to get work done. So he created the system that basically every hour he would take a 15-minute break, and he would spend time with his daughter, and he would look at all the artwork that she made for him. And so he was teaching her to respect his time, but he was also able to get things accomplished, which was a great win-win, and some great daddy-daughter bonding time. So that's exciting. A couple other things, I'm just looking at some of my notes to make sure I haven't bypassed anything. Arrange your office space so that it's ideal for interruptions, or for lack of interruptions. So what I mean by that is, again, if you are in a workplace office, and your desk is facing the door, you're going to see everybody that walks by. Anybody that walks by, Matt, I'm sure you can attest to this. I don't remember how your office is set up, but people walk by, they're like, "Hey, Matt, how you doing?" You know, or just peek in. "Are you busy? Can I have a minute?" "Okay, well, you already distracted me." And so maybe turning your desk so that, I know this is uncomfortable for so many, that your back is to the door. That way, if they walk by and you have your head down and a pen in your hand, or you're busy typing on your computer, it gives the appearance, because you actually are busy, "Oh my goodness, I don't want to interrupt." Something psychologically happens, and they interrupt actually a little bit less. So don't be afraid to be creative and turn and change and renovate your office, which now many of you might have the time to do that. So how does that sit with anybody? Any comments, questions on limiting our interruptions? I had to start close. Yeah, Kim, I can't imagine, because you're very open. Yeah. So the open door policy, and here's a great thing, is you can also let people know, like, "Hey, from here to here, if you want to pop in, that would be great. But this time to this time, I really need to have that focused concentration." I like the idea of metered interruptions. Yeah, I think that's excellent. So learn to control what works for you. And again, based on your personality, some people have no problem saying, "I'm busy." Other people have a really hard time saying that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I put this up here because this is what interruptions could look like for you. So if anybody watches The Office, I think I might be the only human that doesn't. At least that's what my adult children have told me. But this is the scene taken from The Office. I don't know how anybody, if that were an actual work site, would actually get anything done. And this is probably what working from home looks like for a lot of people, between, can't tell if that's a real dog or stuffed animal, but the kids and everything going on. So yes, nice. There's two of us, Lori, that don't watch The Office. I just never got into it. No judgment towards it. I've never got into it. So, all right, there's three of us. Hey, we'll start a support group. All right. So again, with decisions and interruptions, this is so important that we remember to make the decision when we're looking at something. Do I need to do it? Just do it now. Stop procrastinating. Just do it. Do I need to decide, like, I want to do it, but I'm not sure I can do it right now. I can't give it that focused time. Then go to your planner, whether it's your I've Decided journal planner, or any planner that you have. If you use electronics, Outlook or Google, go ahead and schedule a time. Make yourself an appointment when you're going to get that done. Delegate who can do this for me, and eliminate. So use those 4 decision maker keys. They will really, really help you. Never seen it. Oh, look at all the people that have never watched The Office. I just feel so, I feel like I found my tribe right now. All right. So we're going to jump into crisis management. So again, the topic that I was going to share with you today, I actually picked out when Kim originally asked me to do this. And so I thought, how perfectly timed this is. So how we lead in crisis management is so key for how we are as leaders. Maybe I'll just read this. How we lead in our homes and in the workplace, regardless of our title, is super, super important. I keep hearing, not hearing voices I don't know if anybody will track with me here on this, but I just keep seeing the word reset everywhere I go. And I feel like COVID-19, the coronavirus, this is a reset for companies, for families, for individuals, for our nation, for churches. This is such a huge reset button. And for many of you, it could be like, oh my gosh, there's like, there's so many unknowns that it's overwhelming. And then for some of you, and it might be a rare amount of you, it's like, wow, this is an opportunity that I have to begin and maybe do something I've always wanted. Or maybe this is an opportunity to implement a change that I felt needed to happen, but it just wasn't the right time. So there's some 4 things to really evaluate and look at in crisis management. So most likely, this is personal opinion, no judgment on this, but most likely I don't feel like we're going to go back to normal. I don't know if there's a normal to go back to. I think we're going to have to find our new normal. And so in that, to me, there's a lot of excitement, there's innovation, there's creativity, and there's vision. I think that is so exciting. So my question is, where is your mindset? Are you open to that? Does that leave you in a panic? Are you feeling overwhelmed? And I see a couple things in the chat box, so. Reset or back to normal, yeah. We can make our new normal. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I think for those that are sitting in a position of leadership, you are in such a great spot because we have to change. And now this is the perfect opportunity to make these changes. Kim, I'm very adaptable. Kim, you're like the rare person. Not many people are. Events and fundraising will never be the same. We have got to think outside the box for this. Yeah. There's so many changes every day. Oh, I can't imagine. I unfortunately spent the morning in ER yesterday with my daughter, and I'm just looking around thinking, I don't even know how they keep up with all the changes. She's fine, so we're good. It makes me kind of sad of letting go, but yeah, we're going to come out stronger. Another thing I read is that, again, I'm a very positive person. I feel like overall, I'm optimistic about things. There's a difference between a positive mindset and positivity. So I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, everything is, sunshine and roses. But I think we have to like lean into our emotions, whatever they are. I think it was Jackie. I always say your name wrong. It's Jackie. Sorry. We were chatting before everybody got on, and just how you just like allowed yourself for a day or so just to kind of be in this funk. And that's okay. Lean into those emotions. There's a period of grieving, because there's some things that we'll never have back the way they were. But on the flip side, there's going to be some amazing, amazing new things come out of this, which is nice. Change is never going to go away. That's so true. Other than shopping for supplies, the meals won't change, but catering in another matter. Yeah, Deborah, huge. We're definitely not going to ever stop eating, but how we eat and how we get our food, that is for sure. That could be one of our biggest shifts. People being on this Zoom shows will to change. Yeah, for sure. I'm involved in a Celebrate Recovery. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's a 12-step program. My husband and I launched it about a year ago. It's based out of the Saddleback Church with Rick Warren. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's for anybody with hurts, hangups, or habits, which is pretty much if you're breathing, as far as I'm concerned. Rick Warren is amazing. And so anyhow, we're given permission to run the CR program online. And sad to say, a lot of the people that attend our program for drug and alcohol purposes have really struggled right now. But a lot of our people they're doing it. One lady, it was like week 3, she hadn't shown up. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, what's going on? She's like, I just don't know if I can do these Zoom calls. They're so overwhelming. And so letting people like acknowledging, well, of course it's new. But you're right. I think it was Chuck or Carla. If I'm saying your name wrong, please forgive me. That says just it was Matt. People being on the Zoom call shows the will to change for sure. Couple weddings booked, not sure what will happen. Yeah, Deborah, like this could really change so many things. So I think what we need, what's important right now in crisis management is that we have a willingness and the knowledge that I can't fix circumstances, but I can choose how I'm going to show up. And I choose to show up looking for opportunities. That's my mantra. That's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm choosing to live. So with that mindset, I can move forward. I can choose to move forward, and I can choose to be part of that change. And that excites me. So 4 things that we're going to talk about is staying calm, isolating the major consideration, meaning what do I need to focus on? How do I return conditions to normal, whatever that looks like, and learning something. So now, mind you, this content was written prior to COVID-19. So in a normal situation, let's say there's a fire. So stay calm, isolate what needs to be happen. Okay, fire in the kitchen. I need to get the fire out. And then do I return conditions to normal? So, okay, so I'm going to get it cleaned up and then just go back to normal. And then what can I learn from this? And so how this is applicable in the workforce is so many people, especially in management and leadership, they can do the 3. They stay calm. They're able to identify, what do I need to focus on right now to get this fire, whatever it is. It could be a proverbial fire, taken care of. Return conditions. Let's get rid of the people that are watching and just, taking up time and, just, like, oh, that's cool. And, like, get everybody back to work. Everything's good. It's calm. It's under control. And then go back to your desk and say, okay, what can I learn from this situation? How can we avoid it? How can we maximize what happened? And so that's where this content was written. But I thought, wow, how appropriate is it for right now with COVID-19 is we need to stay calm. What makes you calm? Find what that is. Keep your routines. Isolate the major considerations. So what is that one thing you need to do today? Focus on one thing. Return your conditions to normal. Again, that normalcy. Keep a routine. It's so, so important. And keep a journal. There have been many people in major life-altering, not pandemics, because not that we've had a lot, but even like in world wars, big events that have kept a journal where they've identified what they learned each day. And it's just powerful, really, really powerful. And I'm reading the chats. Peggy, yeah, that's why I showed to show up. That's super, super important. Kim, I'm working hard to have compassion for those who may have different situations and be reacting in a different way. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's so, so true. I think knowing that everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be, that we've walked a path that maybe allows us to see a perspective that they haven't walked yet. And for sure it's hard. You've got people that are just complaining and they're sitting on their butt and they have everything handed to them and they're still complaining. It's definitely a challenge. Thank you, Kim, for being that honest. Matt, that's critical. Yeah, compassion is good. Keeping a sense of appreciation and humor, a few deep breaths, Chuck. Yeah, that's so, so true. Breathe. That was one thing prior to COVID, and I need to start incorporating that again, is just like literally writing in my planner the word breathe and take a couple of minutes where I literally just breathe. Deep breath in, deep breath out, and do that several times and just stop and let the quiet kind of not overwhelm me, but just encompass me and just breathe. And it just like resets me. And, so I encourage you to do that. So you're the one thing talking. Yeah, Jeannie, I read that book. Oh, did you write that in your planner, Mo? I love it. People laughed at me when they saw breathe. You know what? They may laugh, but secretly they're thinking I should have done that too. So, all right, so I'm going to just move to the next slide. I apologize that that's slightly blurry. Steve Jobs, I'm sure you've heard of him before. This is the last point that I want to make today, and I've not even watched our time. I think we're doing good on our time. Saying no is sometimes the hardest thing to say. Again, if you're a people pleaser, if you are a codependent, which I didn't even know what that term was until I started with the Celebrate Recovery and realized I might identify slightly with a codependent person, but I want to help people so much. And so saying no is really, really difficult. And I'm looking, it's not on this list here. I have a pile of books on my desk that are work related, and then a pile on my nightstand that are more personal. Lisa Turkwurst, another favorite author of mine, she wrote a book called The Best Yes. Fantastic book. But saying no to 1,000 good ideas, for some of you may be the biggest challenge ever. And I'm going to encourage you, the best way you can do that is to have a clear plan. When you know what you want to do and it's crystal clear, there's nothing that will stop you. So it's easy to say yes. And there's so many different ways to say yes or say no without actually saying the word. And so we can say no to all the things that are distracting us so that we can say yes to that one thing that we want. I think that was about it, talking about no. Yeah. So I just want to share again, this is a quote from Paul J. Meyer. He's the founder of the programs that I offer. I love this quote. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. It's powerfully true. I've seen that happen over and over again in my life and others. And so I love that. Great idea, Mo. We should put that on our calendar. That's so true. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So why don't we go ahead and open up, Kim, if you could unmute everybody. And let's just get some conversation. Like, what were some of the things that maybe resonated with you that you'd like to talk about? Maybe a challenge that you're really facing to maybe dealing with productivity, whatever. We'll just open it up.
I think I got most everyone unmuted. You want to unshare your screen so we can all
yeah, I do.
see each other?
We can see each other big. Yay.
Yeah, we can see each other big.
Okay, there we go. I can see you all now. That's nice. I can only see like 2 or 3 of you at a time.
I want to say about no. I lost my husband in 2018, and that's when I learned to say no.
Wow.
It is powerful. My kids are involved in lots of things, and last summer they were involved in community theater. And I remember at the very end of the production, like all the parents were getting together, and they were, you need to plan next summer's production. And I was like, I barely did what I did. And I told them, no, I didn't want to. And it's just very powerful, because there was another mother who looked at me and she's like, you told them no? And I was like, I wasn't rude. I was very polite. I just said, now's not a good time to put more on my plate. No, thank you. And I just went outside to play with the kids while all the other parents sat inside. And I went to go blow bubbles. And so the other mother, she followed me out there, and she's like, I didn't want to do that either. And she's like, I wanted to tell them no, but I wasn't brave enough. And I was like, it's not, I mean, it does take bravery, I guess, and courage to say no, especially when you're so used to trying to be kind and nice and polite to say yes. But, I even have a little song that I listen to. It's called No is Bae, like no is my boyfriend. I use it a lot, and I just had to get comfortable. Even like that song helped me practice saying no, because I'm a yes woman, and I always, can you help me? And I'm like, yes, I can. What can I do? And I wasn't able to help when I was grieving. So I learned the power of no, and now we're friends.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I'm so sorry to hear the loss of your husband. And it's how true, though, that sometimes it takes huge events for us to kind of push us to that place where we can stand in our own skin and say no. And like that, you probably empowered so many people by like you said, one was like, I was too afraid to say no. And so, you give people power.
I didn't really realize the impact, but it was powerful. Like, she was paying attention, and I'm sure some other parents were like, but yeah. No, I was like, there's plenty of parents that are able to do it. I'm like, I'm only at one day at a time. I'm like, I don't even know if my kid's gonna do theater next year. I don't know. And
Right.
so it was really just a self-protection kind of thing, but other people did witness, and other people feel empowered by me, by just setting that example of saying, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck said, what I realized is that I'm not saying no to the person, but no to the request. Oh, that's so powerful. I'm glad you said that. I was reading that. What was I reading today? I was reading another book by Joe. Shoot, I'm so bad with names. I'm bad with titles because I can't even think of what it is now. It's something about rise. No. Anyhow, regardless, that's what she was saying. That we're not saying no to the person, and that, so for some of us, that's like we don't want to offend that person. We're saying no to the request, or no, I can't do that thing right now because what I'm doing here is more important. And I've worked with some clients before where they're like, so Matt, close your ears. Like, my boss is telling me to do this, this, and this, and how am I supposed to get my job done if I'm doing this, this, and this? And so I'm just kidding about closing your ears. But I've simply said to them, you know what, sometimes those that are in leadership over us don't necessarily see all the weight that's on our plate. So there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I'm feeling really strapped for time. I'm working on this project and this project. I'd love to help you. Help me figure out when I should do this. And 9 times out of 10, that person will either help them reprioritize, making them feel like, okay, I can do all of this, or go, oh my goodness, I had no idea you had so much on your plate. Let me ask so-and-so. And so it's a great resolve. Any other comments?
I always talk about, oh, go ahead.
No, Matt.
You go.
No, you go.
All right.
No fighting.
I just, I talk about with my team all the time about having passion for the job. I think I spoke about this too, but passion for the job, but also compassion for each other. And every group that comes in, every 2 weeks, in normal times, we have new employees coming in. We have 450 employees, and so there's just an in and out all the time, it seems like. And I speak to them every other Monday, to all the new employees, and I say, you have to have the passion for your job, compassion for each other. But what I stress is, and I probably shouldn't say it like this, but I want to know how important it is to the way our culture is, and the way I think is, I really don't want you to work here if you don't care about the person next to you. Because if you don't care about what Mo's going through, or whoever, then you have no clue what's going on with the person right next to you. And I think that gets lost sometimes with any type of manager or any type of leader, is they think they have all the answers, but they really don't. They just have to be more compassionate.
Yeah.
So with somebody like Mo, she's a perfect example. No one knows what's going through. No one knows. It's no one's business either. But you have to at least understand that, she's struggling right now, and you got to be there for her.
Yeah, Jeannie said, put yourself in their shoes. It's so true. I think having I did this for, I think 3 months in a row. I wrote at the top of whatever day it was, every day, I wrote, be curious. Because we have stories and assumptions, like our brains are amazing. And so if we're missing data, your brain will fill it in, whether or not it's true, like anybody else besides me, right? Someone doesn't answer an email. Like, are they mad at me? Why are they not responding? Well, they could be overwhelmed. Like, maybe something just happened. And so we fill in with stories and assumptions based on our past, based on maybe how we've been hurt, our insecurities, all those things play into effect. And so being curious allows you, instead of being annoyed at the person that maybe grades you the wrong way, or, like, why is this person saying no to the boss? Like, who do they think they are? Be curious and figure out. And like Matt was saying, you'll find that compassion for that person. And that's powerful. Yeah. You're going to have the place to work in the Peoria area. Like, people are going to be like begging. There's going to be a lineup. Can I please work here? Yeah.
Well,
you're doing
I
a good job.
hope I tell you, we need employees. It's healthcare and social service work and nurses and teachers. And I mean, it's hard right now. There's shortages everywhere. It's
Yeah.
pitiful,
It is,
really.
but you got a good team. I mean, the ones that I've been working with one on one, they're just, I love them. They think outside the box. They're strategic. They're excited about their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think
I
a lot,
think it's
this is
great.
Peggy. I think a lot of things will change. I'm hoping, like you said, with this, excuse me, isolation. I think a lot of people are super appreciative more of teachers now that they're having to teach their kids. I mean, nurses have always had a good place with people, but I think it's helping, and I think we have to communicate and help educate and refocus people when they get off track of how important it is to be aware of others, like, you know, this non-masking movement and all this kind of stuff. It's, you know, it's not about you. It's about the people that you're impacting, you know, however that is, with health or your mood or your attitude or your actions. I'm really hoping one of the positive things come out is that people are just much more aware of the impact and the interconnectedness that people have.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Matt said, my mom was a nurse, my wife's a teacher. See my Facebook post I posted 2 hours ago about teachers. Yeah, I haven't, I'll look tonight intentionally, Matt. And that's funny. I lived in Canada for 10 years, and there are some things I loved living there. Beautiful place. There were some things I loved, a lot of things I missed. Some things Canada got right, some things they didn't. But teachers are paid well. Nurses, not so much. They actually, a lot of nurses will go to the States because they make more. But teachers are paid they're compensated very, very well, which is because they work hard. They work hard, and they, you know, they've got our kids for how
They're the
many hours?
foundation.
They are. Yeah, whether or not we want to admit that as parents, they have a huge impact on our kids, and they need to be appreciated for sure. Yeah. Anybody else? Any challenge that you're facing, Mo? I love that. Thank you, Mo. Any challenges that you're facing with productivity right now, or anything? I don't know all the answers, but somebody on this call might.
Well, I'll say something because I almost didn't join the call. I feel like I stopped myself in my tracks. I was really getting some traction on my not-for-profit for elders, and with not only the social isolation, because that was my project to eliminate that, but not-for-profit funding. So I'm kind of trying to rearrange my brain and say, well, build it anyway, and maybe there'll be avenues open, but just feeling, and plus, I mean, I have really been stretched, trust me, on this new roles of having to do stuff in the home. Very scary, but I have spoken up and gotten support, and that's been a huge growth curve. But just trying to figure out, you know, how to navigate startups. I was just listening to NPR's Marketplace, and they're like, well, new startups are just going to die. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm just feeling discouraged.
Yeah, well, and no wonder you're feeling discouraged, because right now, like, there's so much in the air. But reaching out to groups like this, like Matt, you mentioned earlier on the chat something about funding is going to change. So, what are your thoughts or your insights of how, you know, this will change and impact? And, you know, I would say, like Peggy, if you have a passion, if you have a goal, go for it. If, you know, make sure that someone can like walk beside you and support you. You don't do it alone, but like, I love the I've Decided community. I think that fills that gap for us. So Matt says, you can go ahead and talk, Matt.
Yeah, I'll just, don't give up. I just you're going to have to, I mean, the numbers are not going to be there. That's just what it is. So in our budget, we raise a heck of a lot of money. I'm not even going to tell you how much we raise in a year, but you take that number now, and our budget is being developed right now for this upcoming year. We start the new year at the end of June 30. And so there's this huge hole, so to speak, that's going to be there because we can't have, our golf tournament. We can't have our cattle auction that we have in September. Our gala was April 4th, which obviously didn't happen. And so it is what it is to me. I think what you have to do is try to figure out how to market what you're doing, how you're going to sell what you're doing, and then come up with some sort of a plan on how you're going to use social media. And I've decided network, and Kim and Karen to be able to promote what you're doing, because I think there's still something there. It's just to get the funding, it's going to be tougher. What people are, I'm seeing, I've probably talked to every director in town so far, and I'll bet you 75% of them haven't thought about it yet. And they're losing, so that's an opportunity that is not good for their agency. So you've got an opportunity to try to figure out how to upsell. You have time now to search for grants. You have time to reach out to people. I'll give you one good example, then I'll be quiet, is I reached out through a contact that I have. There's people right now that are willing to do things that typically charge 50 grand and 100 grand to do a week-long series or to speak. And I got hold of this guy a couple of days ago, and he picked up my call. And that's happening more often. That is just happening a lot because everyone's at home. And so I was on a website today, and there's a fundraiser going on. It's nationwide, and it's for food banks. And so like Tom Brady and all these top athletes are donating all of these unique things. One guy is donating his Rolls Royce. One guy is donating dinner with Tom Brady. Tom Brady's donating that. And they're doing these things now all online and raising money. You could put together a platform or something. Feel free to call me on my cell, but you can put together a platform or something and actually try to do something different. And you may actually get more traction now because people are listening and watching than you ever would even beforehand. I see Lori shaking her head. I mean, you've got opportunities now that you didn't have 3 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, and you just got to take advantage of them instead of spinning and thinking, whoa me. You're actually better prepared than 75% of the people I've talked to in the last week.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I would encourage you, Peggy, to like that was spot on, fantastic. But I would encourage you to like make a list. I guess I'm very paper to pen kind of person. I love to see it, but think of what are the ways that you could come up with funding. And when you think you've exhausted your list, walk away from it. I don't know if you're a spiritual person at all. Well, we're all spiritual. It just depends on how you look at it. But either whether it's your higher power or God, or just, get that quiet place and access that creativity inside of you, and then come back to it and look at it again. And then, talk it over with someone else that might have, like take it with Matt. He just looks at things from a different perspective. Call someone up that looks at life different than you and say, help me think, have I missed anything? What can I do? And then just take a step. So love that. Thank you, Matt, for sharing that. I wanted to go ahead, Jeannie.
I totally agree with Matt on that. And I have a friend that works at CAT, and right now she is extremely busy because they are having a lot of their employees do classes and education and everything. And I think this is where we have the downtime, and we need to prepare ourselves for thinking outside the box to do whatever we can do to help us. But then also after this is over with and everything, a lot of people that have put themselves in this leadership role and everything, there's going to be people that's going to look to us that we can teach them and help them.
Absolutely. I know for myself, I had, and I kind of want to speak to, Jeannie had put something up in the chat about anxiety, but I think it was the first day of April, well, before the first day of April. I always plan my month out like the Saturday before the month starts. I'm looking at my month going, what can I do? Everything's shut down. How do I approach a company? Like, I was feeling that overwhelm of like, what's the point? And just very, very frustrated. And so I intentionally put myself, I called a couple of colleagues that they do what I do across the US. We set up a Zoom call. We had a conversation. All of a sudden now I get those creative juices flowing again. I sat down after that phone call by myself and I put together a list of 10 different ways that I could make revenue that I never thought of before. They were all at my disposal. I just never thought of them because they were outside of my box. And so I jumped out of my box. So I really want to encourage you to do that. Jeannie, you talked about anxiety being a distraction.
No, I think that was Deborah.
Oh, Deborah. Okay. Yes. Okay. So huge distraction. And I think that we need to talk about anxiety because people struggle with it with varying degrees, and not talking about it is, I think, damaging, to be honest with you. Like, let's lean into it. Let's talk about it. How can we, if we struggle with it to the point that it's crippling, how can we surround ourselves with people that will help us when we need it? What kind of things can we put in place that, well, we're not going to feel overwhelmed by it, you know, like what are those things that we can do? And so really want to encourage you to like find what works for you, but surround yourself. It was Jeannie and I that were talking earlier before the call started. There's a person that I follow on YouTube and I listen to her podcasts, and she's also on Facebook. Her name is Dr. Caroline Leaf. Caroline, Caroline, Leaf, like, you know, on a tree. And she is phenomenal, like a neuroscientist, psychologist. I don't know. She has far more degrees than I do. And she really talks about the power of what you put into your brain and how you can actually rewire your brain. And so during this whole COVID-19 thing, I noticed on Facebook specifically, she's always posting something very encouraging. And she was saying, like, if you struggle with anxiety, limit how much you listen to the news. If you really want to know what's going on, type in CDC in your Google, go look it up, and then walk away. You don't need to hear hour after hour of, you know, CNN, NBC, whatever your poison is. I mean, whatever your choice of news is. And you don't need to listen to all of that negativity because it's just going to overwhelm you. So if you feel like you need to stay on top of it and you're in a leadership position and you feel like you want to have information so that you can make intelligent decisions and conversations with people, then listen to a set amount, but balance that with what are you listening that's encouraging you? What are you listening to? Are you spending time meditating, quiet time? Again, if spirituality is important to you, are you praying? Are you reading your Bible or a book that brings you encouragement? You know, make sure you balance those things out. A bunch of thank yous for everybody. Peggy, yeah, we're super excited to see what you're going to do. Like, Peggy, please keep us posted in the I've Decided, because I just think that something awesome is going to come out of this.
And Peggy, you can't quit. That's not going to happen. You're a member of I've Decided. Quitting is not an option.
That's right.
You guys are so great. Thank you. I just was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Okay.
And it's not an option.
Right.
We'll get through this. Sometimes you have to hit the pause button. I want to just say something really quick. I was having a conversation with Dean Hefta earlier today, and we just had a great conversation. And we're all different. We all respond differently. And I typed this in here: self-awareness, knowing yourself and what you need is different. And now is not the time to compare. Now is not the time to say, why is this person being so creative and seeming so positive and making things happen and all of this when I'm feeling like I'm over here drowning and stressed out and this is scary to me. You have to know yourself. And some people respond well in situations like this. In fact, some people do their best work, their best creativity, their, the song Amazing Grace, the number one Christian song ever that even people who aren't Christians know, was written under duress when a man lost his entire family at sea. So some people have their most creativity come out in times like this, because that's just how they're wired. And some people just need to just take a pause and just say, this is too much for me. I need a pause. You have to know yourself, and it's okay. It is absolutely, if you are the person that responds and you're having your creative moment and you're working hard and this is good for you, that's wonderful. And that's what you should be doing. But if you're a person who needs to take a pause because this is just seemingly overwhelming, then that's okay too. And so I don't know. I think it's very, 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 self-awareness is very important. Knowing yourself and what you need.
Compare yourself only to your potential. That's it. Nobody else's. Yeah. And then somebody mentioned something about affirmations. So affirmations are huge. And especially if you struggle with any kind of anxiety, affirmations are powerful. And so one of mine is, I am fearless. And that certainly doesn't mean I have like zero fear, but I fear less. And I fear less because I know what I want, and what I want is greater than that. So so I encourage you to, create a list of affirmations. If you don't know, you can just Google affirmations. You can find a gazillion. I have a bunch of scriptural based ones. I have a bunch that are for business. I literally have like 2 separate pages of some of you have seen them. So, and courage is not absent. That's right. Courage is doing it anyway. It's so true. Yeah, I know that's such a misnomer of people feeling that. So anything else? Self-awareness drives self-esteem. Yeah, it does. So true. Chuck, do I know you and Carla? Wish I could see your faces. I do.
You know Chuck. He does the disc flex. He's a resource for I've
yeah. Okay,
He's a business coach. Yeah, there.
Okay.
Hey,
hi.
there he is. Comes out from hiding.
My hair's getting so long. No haircuts. Matt, you got it made. My hair's
yeah.
I think
about going that way. That may be the way to go.
You can
Just let it go.
I do love seeing all the guys getting their haircuts by their partners, their wives or spouses or whoever. My husband's like Matt. He's bald, so we don't have that problem. But it's funny to watch. Laurie, are you cutting Tom's hair? Because he's got a lot of hair.
She's muted.
You're muted.
No, I'm too afraid to do that. He actually has a little challenge going with some of his leadership team to see who can grow a man bun.
Of course he does. I wish he was on this call today. So Matt, have you met Tom Trotter?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys would love each other.
Right? I'm also working on my man bun too, but it's going to be a while.
That's funny.
Oh, I love that. That cracks me up. Good. That's Tom. See, always just trying to make something fun out of something that's not great, right?
Love it.
I love it too. That's awesome. That's cool. Good stuff. Thank you, Karen. I hope you guys, it looks like everyone, there's a couple people that had to, Peggy said she did her husband's last night. That's funny. There's a couple of people I think that had to go, but no rush, but obviously we're getting to the end. It's just been great. Karen, it's great learning from you. It's just such a blessing to have you as a part of our resource team, and we just love that.
Thank you.
I hope you guys all feel the same way. I have a whole, look at all my notes.
Oh, I love it. You took notes. That makes me happy.
All my notes. Yep, all my notes. I wrote down a lot. So, yep, cool. Anybody else? Anything? Oh, yes.
When Karen first started, she's like, what's been on your list for weeks and weeks? And I'm like, doing Chuck's disc assessment. And I'm like, I've just pulled up the email to do it now so that I can cross it off my list because I'm tired of carrying it over week after week. And
Yes,
I need to
just
get it
do
done.
it.
Yes,
So
I'm
cool.
gonna
And
do it now.
yeah, the debriefing with Chuck is worth it. Taking the assessment, but going through the debriefing to understand how you can apply it to your success.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now.
That's the best part, actually. So
I believe you.
I liked the debriefing. I had it done by a friend. I just did the disc. I'm a huge assessment junkie. And so, I've done a lot of them. And so I did the disc and I found that there's so Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a natural state and a adapted. Is that right?
You can word it differently. I mean, it's people that kind of are not themselves at work. And they're just different at home. It's like a different persona. And if you're really different, that's where you're probably carrying a lot of stress. I mean, if you have to Sunday night kind of start bumming out and getting ready for work and put on some false thing, that's where you can get in some trouble. And knowing that,
it was really powerful. Like I took it I had taken it a couple years ago, and I remember looking at it going, that's not me at all. But I was working a job that I hated, and I really wanted to do what I'm doing now, but I didn't dare take the risk and just do it. So 4 years ago now, I finally took the plunge and just did it. And I started part-time, and then I was like, after that first year of part-time, I'm like, no, do or die, we're done. And it's amazing how it flips. So I am an yes.
That makes sense.
I'm a very high I, but I'm almost, it's like my S is really high too. So yeah, that's me. I don't really know what that means, but
Kim and I have some high I's, so we can appreciate that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. So awesome.
All good.
Yeah. So, well, thank you guys. There's a couple more things on the chat. I don't want to miss anybody. Input Chuck in the search bar. It was sent March 24th. When he sent
that. Okay. If anybody goes past that, I'm fine with it. It's just, if this thing goes on longer, and we ought to get some more people, and we'll figure it out, Kim. I mean, it's
awesome.
It's
I think Aaron wants to do it, and Mo. I'll just make sure those two for sure. But
yeah, I think there's a couple more in the queue.
I'm in.
So, yep, we'll help everybody out.
I'm gonna
thank you,
stop the recording.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.